Hello and welcome to another YouTube live show. This is something we've been doing lately. It's kind of fun to go live on YouTube because we can share video with everybody who's interested. And this is specific to our class 4 rowing school we're doing this week, where we're on the river practicing things, and we took video today, and we're just going to share some of our thoughts about our video. And we're going to share our philosophies on a lot of stuff. You know, this is how we believe things. And if you're an outside viewer, not in the class, feel free to leave a comment or a question. It's really fun to have the interactions. So Dustin has some video fired up. So Dustin, whenever you're ready, like, get at it.
Sweet. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of hit play here and just kind of watch what's happening. This is one of two pods that we had. Like, this first bit is one of two pods that we have going downriver. And I think there's 5 folks in this pod, but we're just going to watch it, and then we can talk about it as it goes and debrief the end of the video. So here we go. So just a couple of quick thoughts here that was happening. This was kind of 2 different bits, but you see the black boat come in, which was Steve. Steve was running sweep in the black boat, caught the eddy, and then kept moving downstream, which was great. And he kind of gets out of frame here. And I think it's really great that, like, Aaron is continuing to follow him here. At no point do we really want to send anybody downstream by themselves. We want to keep that pod together. And so Aaron in the gray boat pulls out and continues to follow Steve downstream, which I think is like some excellent team boating right here.
Mark, I just muted you because there's background noise, but if you want to join in any conversation, just unmute yourself and chit chat.
No worries, just getting used to something that doesn't do that for you.
Absolutely. And I really like the way that the three cat boats here. I'm not sure what the communication is like, but they seem to just kind of naturally want to pull out together. And I'm going to go back to that just a little bit. See if I can get this. I'm still learning this YouTube live stuff, so bear with me a bit. But as we're communicating as a team and as a pod, we want to make sure that as we're pulling out of these eddies, that we're all leaving kind of together. And I think that these 3 boats here in particular do a really nice job of that. But maybe have left a little space, maybe a little too much space in between the 2 boats that went down right in front of them. And we can kind of see that here. So maybe just a little too much space between those first two boats that went downstream and the 3 cats that are going downstream. I wasn't part of that pod or that communication. I don't know if anybody has some enlightening comments onto what was going on there.
Looking at the boat ordering, I think we'd gotten ourselves backwards because of getting hung up on some rocks or going into the eddy in the wrong order. So this was the first to last, last to first, getting back in order.
And I think that's great, right? Like Zach talked a little bit about this homeostasis or this equilibrium that we're trying to achieve. And sometimes we have to adapt to the situation. And I think you guys did a really good job of adapting here. It looks like the gray boat is trying to like, hey, we're going to eddy out again downstream and regroup because maybe there was, somebody missed an eddy or needed to continue downstream for whatever reason. But again, we want to make sure that we're protecting all the boats here. And that downstream boat is really acting as our safety. Or the boat in front of you is acting as your safety. So the closer you can maintain that spacing, I think you're really protecting yourself and leaving yourself less exposed. And this is a pretty shallow rapid that we kind of come into. And I think we did our best in this situation to kind of let you guys pick your line through here and kind of see what would happen and let the situation unfold. So we'll go ahead and watch this through.
I have a quick question for Aaron. Aaron, did you and Steve talk about that as you were going by him? Like that as he was going by you to say, hey, can you help me? Or did you just decide to help him when he was going by?
I'm not sure exactly what part you're referring to. Like when we got into the shallows here on this rock garden?
Oh, you're muted, Jeff.
When Steve was going by you in the last clip, and he was sweet boat, and you took out after him, did he say something to you, or did you just decide to do that, or?
Oh no, we came into the eddy in boat order, and because it was a tight eddy, we had to kind of file out in reverse order. So I followed the sweet boat, and then once we got to a space with more river, capacity, we flip-flopped back to the original boat order. So we kind of planned that.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. And I think that's great. Like Scott said, great instincts, not letting that boat go downstream alone. That was great. I like it a lot, Aaron. And again, this is this really shallow rapid that you kind of just had to pick your way through. And Mark has, had a good line here, and then, maybe he doesn't. Something to consider when going through these shallows is really just, maintaining momentum and continuing to push downstream instead of trying to pull back up and slow yourself down. Might be why he got caught here. And then it starts to impact Sims here a little bit, and he gets hung up. And yeah, we have just kind of this whole mess happening. And so we talk about a lot of having adequate boat spacing. And as we come through these shallows, it might be a good idea to provide more space in between so that it gives that lead boat and the boat in front of you the opportunity to become unstuck.
Well, I think if you look at the boat spacing as we were coming into the top, we'd actually spaced out a bit. What I didn't do is I didn't start slowing down or finding slack water soon enough when I saw Mark getting slowed down in front of me.
Right. And again, I'm gonna try and go back just a hair here. Right here. Let's see, where is it? Right here, you see Mark slowing down, right? And that may have been the cause of him getting hung up. Where if he'd been continued to push and like, I'm just going to plow over these shallow rocks, he may not have gotten as stuck. Just something to consider as you're moving through shallows. Instead of trying to slow down, we're trying to speed up.
And I would agree, your boat spacing looked great up until getting stuck. Seemed good to me.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, so in my experience, when you're on a low volume river like this, especially with lots of like little rocks that are likely to hang boats up, I like to actually have more spacing, especially when you go through shallow stuff like this, because I find that the risk exposure is higher when you get a pileup of boats on a single obstacle or a series of obstacles than it is if you're spaced out and you have the opportunity to, you know, take a different line and figure out how to best support whoever got hung up. So
Absolutely. And I think that that's what I'm, maybe I didn't do a good job of it, but that's what I'm trying to convey is that through these really shallow parts, if we could space out a little bit more or even eddy out. And what we're not going to see here is Steve. So I think Steve completely eddied out way above everybody and let all the boats get through. And there are pros and cons to this approach. But it did allow everybody to get through before and not cause a bigger pile up.
I want to jump in real quick. Pause it real quick, Dustin.
Yeah.
Right here. So like right here, so if we're class 3 boating, this is fine. But once we're class 4 boating, that lead boat, like marked in the front, if he swims, he's on his own. Right. So this is what I'm super focused on is downstream safety. And so right now he's way up there. I'm nervous for him because he's super exposed. If there's a class 4 plus rapid below, he's on his own and there's nobody behind him. So there's like a fine line between like, I think I love this rapid for teaching because it forces boat spacing a little bit. Like it causes pileups, but also it's a balance between like avoiding pileups and creating spacing. And so what's more dangerous, the potential of Mark swimming the next rapid solo or boats running into each other? And I'm going to claim a lot of times boats, like if those boats hit each other, there's not a lot of danger there. But if Mark in the lead swims, he's on his own. He has nobody to help him out. So there's a balance there. I think we're looking for. That's hard.
Absolutely. It is. And, you know, taking into account what's downstream, right?
Yep.
If there was a lot of hazard or some big rapids downstream, absolutely.
yeah, and I guess, Zach, I just would temper that a bit to say, like, if it's a faster moving river or there's a higher consequence rapid, then for sure. But like when it's spread out like that and everybody's bonking into one another and getting hung up, I just feel like with foot entrapment or whatever, like you're going to have a much more present danger there. If Mark swims, there's clear water below and like you could get to him fairly quickly. I don't know.
Are you talking about Mark here or Jeff?
Who's the lead boat?
Mark is yellow boat and
Oh, sorry, Mark.
Yeah.
Sims is the orange boat.
Yeah, for the purposes of this trip, I have no first name.
Nice.
So I have a when we're practicing class 4 skills on class 3 water, I'm hypersensitive to the lead boat. Like, cause we're simulating class 4 a lot of times and we're not running class 4s here, but we're like simulating. And so like, I'm always lead boat. If the lead boat swim, who's there? And so I'm always hypersensitive to that person because they're super exposed. And so in this example, like you can see, like if he swims, he's probably going to be fine. But if there is killer death falls around the corner and he swims, like who's going to be there? And if everybody's hung up in the rocks, like, and he's just pushing out in front. So I really like having boat 2 close to boat 1, especially to provide that safety.
And you know, like to that point, Zach, like maybe we can choose how to run these rapids, right? We don't have to run it as a big group, like all 4 or 5 of us. But maybe you send down pairs. So you send down a pair of boats together, and then the next pair of boats come down. So we're not causing a big pile up, but we're potentially avoiding a large pileup and maybe creating like 1 or 2 smaller pileups that aren't exposing us to the risk or to the hazard.
I like that. I like that a lot, that concept.
Yeah,
right.
That's a really good point, Dustin, because we didn't really talk about that when our pod went through this. Like, maybe we take 2 boats and try to spread those 2 out so that we don't end up with a 3 or 4 boat pile up as opposed to a 2.
Absolutely.
Pipeline when we did that in our pod.
Sorry, say that again, Mark.
We did that split a little bit later down. I think on the Pipeline Rapid. Might be good to show kind of where we did the 2 and 3.
Absolutely, and we'll get to that in a second. But it is something to consider too. Actually, when you're scouting, like we talk about this acronym when we scout, and part of the acronym is safety or swimming, and trying to come up with an idea or the best way to the safest way or how to manage the risk. And part of that is deciding how you're going to actually run the rapid. Do you want to run the rapid with tight boat spacing, or maybe you want to give like a 30-second boat spacing, or are you going to run it in pods? Are you going to send somebody downstream to act as safety? So there's a lot of things that we can do to begin to mitigate these risks, especially after we scouted. But I'll try and keep this moving through here. And at this point, like, I hope these two boats are on the left are communicating a little bit like, hey, I've got a really good way off. I'm going to go, hold on a sec. And you see upstream, there's Steve. He's kind of, waiting for everybody to kind of come through. And, these boats here may be communicating to Steve upstream as well. Like, hey, this is not the way to go, right? Like, clearly you can see us stuck here. And maybe they're like, all you have to do is point, right? We point positive and like, hey, maybe the line is really over there to the right. I'm not sure. But over here is really not, is not the cleanest spot. And we'll go, this is kind of the lead in to our Pipeline Rapid. And I think that there's some pretty rad spacing here. As everybody kind of pulls out. The blue boat might consider being a little closer. And I just say that because as we enter the rapid, it's like pulling up to a stop sign, right? If you've ever pulled up to a stop sign and there's a line of cars, you're right on that car in front of you. But as soon as it's their turn to go, that car just kind of takes off. And it's the same as, it's very similar to running rapids. We could have this really tight boat spacing above the rapid, but as soon as that first boat hits the fast water, it just takes off and is gone. So just something to be cognizant of and consider when we enter these rapids. And this is, I think this is some pretty good boat spacing. I think boat number 2 could certainly be maybe a hair closer, but I think we're doing a pretty good job here. And something that I just want to point out as well, with boat spacing, as that boat spacing gets greater, it's harder to see the line that maybe that lead boat is taking. And if you're super far back and you can't see the line anymore, you're leaving yourself, I think, a little bit more exposed, and more reading and running versus, hey, show me the line here, and being able to follow that lead boat who may be the more experienced or the more knowledgeable boater, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Dustin, I don't know if you could see, but I turned around at the entrance to the rapid check in on Katie behind me. I think I should have waited another like 30 seconds before I entered into the rapid and let her get a little closer to me.
And this is, we're talking about like a team component here, right? Me being second boat or even third boat, right? Like the boat in front of you is your safety. And like I said before, the further you are away from that boat, just increases the time that you might spend in the water swimming if you do have an incident.
Yeah, what I was trying to take into account was Katie's approach to mostly pushing. Like I think down here we get to a pretty good place, but then look, she pushes through with me and kind of leaves her mates in the lurch a little bit. I'm not quite sure what happens back there.
I think you guys ended up with some pretty good boat spacing, but I think the green boat here, Mark, got a little far behind.
Yeah,
and we need to.
Did he get hung up? Does anybody know?
I think Mark's right now. My perception is that Mark's default is to pull away from danger, which is it's a very important tool to have in our toolbox. But in order to maintain that spacing, sometimes we need to adapt to the situation and work on closing that gap. So maybe your default is to pull, but at some point you may need to start pushing in order to maintain that boat spacing and manage that risk. And this looks great here. Good boat spacing. Like right here, Sims catches that slow water a little bit to kind of slow himself down, give a little bit more space. And I think what's really important, what I noticed at the bottom while I was watching from the bottom of this rapid, the three boats out in front are all very nimble, light cat boats. And they're completely different. They're, well, not a completely different craft, but they are a different craft and they handle differently. And you notice those three boats get really spaced out from this gray boat, Aaron here. So again, it's continuously looking behind you. That last cat boat, maybe if they notice that, Aaron's getting a little bit behind, can find a way to slow down.
This is where I got to jump in. This was by design. This was the 3 and 2.
Okay, yeah. Great. So there was a plan here. I like it. That's great. Good.
Yeah, we sent the 3 cat boats down at the same time since they have similar characteristics to get in place, and then the 2 oar boats running together.
Awesome. I like it. Good planning. Good communication ahead of time, and it worked out well, and it showed, right? Like it was noticeable.
And I'm going to jump in. One thing I'm now thinking about is what if Aaron swims?
Yeah.
But that's just in the back of my head. So hopefully the boat behind Aaron is close to maybe make a rescue. Like I'm always thinking like, if you swim, where's your safety below?
Absolutely, Zach.
And I think Steve was quite close to me. Like we had good spacing to support one another.
Yeah, that was you could tell that as you guys were coming down that you guys stayed close together, which was awesome.
Yeah.
This to me feels a little spaced out.
He got hung up on some rocks there.
Yeah.
So I could have probably tried to find some slack water to hold up for him.
Well, and the thing about, I say this often too, the only absolute in this is that there are no absolutes. And that in and of itself is debatable, but there may this was this rapid. In another situation, it might be completely different. Like in this rapid, maybe you could have found an eddy. In another rapid, you may not have been able to. So it's just things to consider. It's just things to think about, and continue to contemplate and have talks about. This flyby that Zach does right here is a good opportunity to kind of take a look at our next rapid, really almost our next 2 rapids, a rapid called Wall Shot here. And you can see this big eddy on river right. That's kind of our destination of choice in this rapid. But yeah, nice job, you all. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'll just comment that it felt like looking at the video through Powerline that everybody looked comfortable. Like there wasn't anybody who looked, I don't know, like they didn't have control over their situation, which was amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Like nobody seemed out of control. I like to think about this as kind of like reactionary, right? Anytime you go and scout a rapid or we're boating what we consider plan A, oftentimes it doesn't go according to plan. And so you kind of have to very much be in the moment, be present in the moment, and react to the situation that you're given. Okay, I'm here now. What do I need to do in order to correct what's happening or make my next move? So I think that's what's really cool about this sport is it's or this activity, this adventure activity, is that you have to maintain some sort of presence and a sense of calm, and react to the situation that you're in and deal with it. Yeah.
So looking ahead to tomorrow, this is my favorite rapid for learning on. This is like to me the crux rapid we call wall shot, because when we're learning in class 3 boating and read water, we learn shoot the V, but here the V goes straight into a wall, right? And the wall is actually a little bit undercut, and so you definitely don't want to hit the wall sideways. And so we're going to talk tomorrow. Brody's going to talk a little bit about pushing versus pulling and things you can do to like get out of the V to catch that eddy. There's that big eddy kind of center on the right. That's our big goal tomorrow. And then the next rapid is called Turbo Throbulator. Birdie named it. You can ask him about it.
Right. Only by you is it known as Turbo. I can't even say it.
Turbo Throbulator.
So hard.
I mean, it's just what it's called. Brody named it. That's what it's called. And so we're going to, on the first rapid wall shot, we're going to make a strong move to the right to catch an eddy on the right. And then Turbo Throbulator sends you into a hole. And so we're going to make an opposite move to the left to catch an eddy. And so to me, this is like classic class 4 boating here, right? Like the V doesn't send you where you want to go. So you have to do some move to get out of the V. And Brody will talk about it tomorrow when we head down there.
And I mean, for those of you that are familiar with our terminology, we'd call this cutting the C, or at least to me, this is cutting the C, and trying to catch that eddy as high as possible. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to almost not launching myself out of the boat.
Good. Awesome. Thanks y'all for joining, and thanks for all the comments. It's cool to see folks tuning in and participating. This is super fun.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. It's fun.
Yeah. Good.
Well, cool. I'll get more video tomorrow. We'll do another one of these tomorrow night of some of the other rapids we're going to do. And yeah, see you guys in the morning. And thank you all for all the viewers who are watching. And if you have questions beyond this, put them in the comments of the video, and we'll respond to the comments too in the YouTube video itself. So,
Thanks, folks. See you in the morning.
Have a good night.
Yeah.